Hello Team FD and welcome back to the penultimate episode of Winners and Losers. I'm sure we'll recycle it a little bit, we'll get some transfer winners and losers in there. But of course, we're in the last Premier League match week. We're going to look at the highs and the lows from the weekend just past. Joining me for the second week in a row is DJ Elab. How are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, mate. Not too bad. Better after Sunday's result, which I'm sure we'll get on to.
Yeah, I saw you baiting out Liverpool fans. I saw you baiting out Joe on Twitter, taking
indeed.
no prisoners this week.
Anytime a Chelsea win happens, I'm I'm not good on Twitter. Let's put it that way. And when we lose, I'm not seen on Twitter. So it's either one or the other.
Muted. Yeah. Anyway, no shortage of talking points this week. Let's start with the head of the show because we've got quite a lot of subtopics to get through, haven't we?
Yeah, indeed we do. And we start with an honorary mention for Leeds United, as suggested by Abidas, Dom, Rick Van Dam, and many, many more, as they secured Premier League football for the first time in 16 years on Friday, as rivals West Brom fell to Huddersfield. Now, where 15 managers have failed, often in perilous conditions, to be fair to them, El Loco has succeeded. And it never really looked in doubt. They haven't been outside of the top two in the Championship since November. And we've done a whole video on this, so if you want to check it out, then it will be in the top right-hand corner right now by pressing the I button. So we'll keep it short here, rounding off our congratulations with this clip of the director, Victor Ortiz, celebrating promotion against rivals Derby County.
And how focused the manager is. That's Victor Ortiz there.
He's got the binoculars.
Front and centre. Oh, dearie me. Who let him in with those?
A massive shout out to Chelsea as well, who beat a lacklustre Manchester United side 3-1 to reach the FA Cup final with goals from Giroud and Mason Mount, amongst others, securing their route. Massive shout out to Giroud as well. He loves that competition. 16 goals in it. Kudos to the Frenchman. Now, we don't want to talk about them too much, Chelsea, because we covered them on last week's show. We're going to talk about a transfer rumour in just a second that might tickle your pickle. But I did dig out a stat on Mason Mount that I want to reveal. No player has scored more goals for Super Frankie Lampard in his fledgling managerial career than the Englishman after that shot squirmed under David De Gea. It was an error,
Yeah.
but, you know, credit where credit's due, because Frank Lampard did reveal that he had a word with his player at half-time about changing his shooting technique in order to, you know, overcome the Spaniard.
All I did say to Mason at half-time was that I want to see him strike through balls more. He had a shot in the first half. He tried to kind of whip it or bend it. And for me, you've got to try and outside the box against top keepers. And De Gea is a top keeper. You have to strike through them. Of course, he didn't catch it brilliantly and it goes in, probably done as a mistake. But it's more I was actually worried all about. My job is to worry about my players. And with Mason, I just wanted him to shoot more. Fortunately, 3 minutes after I said it, he did.
Now it's the 6th time the Blues have knocked the Red Devils out of the FA Cup, and the 3rd time in the last 4 seasons. Now it's becoming a tradition. They also ended Manchester United's unbeaten run of 19 games, stretching back to that Burnley defeat in January. Only Arsenal and United have reached more FA Cup finals than Chelsea's 14, with 21 and 20 respectively. And Chelsea will be out for revenge too, with Arsenal beating them in the last 2 FA Cup finals they've played off against each other, the latest being in 2017. But there's even more exciting news for Chelsea fans, isn't there, Chris?
Yeah, this morning The Athletic were reporting that they're extremely close to signing Bayer Leverkusen prodigy Kai Havertz. Now, of course, there's been a number of top sides linked with him in the summer window, as in the Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Liverpool. He's been extremely good in an AMC position for Leverkusen this season. Very prolific for them, and as such it was expected that there'd be a massive tussle for his signature, but the Blues appear to be the only side willing to meet Leverkusen's €80 million valuation. Now, our understanding is Chelsea wouldn't pay that fee up front, and it would be staggered, and there'd be performance related bonuses in there, etc. But with Chelsea, having not spent a dime in January owing to that ban, they do have money that other top clubs don't have to play around with, in lieu of FFP, which of course is a bit of a joke now.
Yeah.
But that aside, because we spoke about it enough last week, it appears that the Blues have taken pole position, and personal terms are said to be close to being agreed. The player has spoken to Frank Lampard, and he must have been brushing up on his German, Jelab, because that's Timo Werner that he's wooed, and Kai Havertz.
I think a certain Antonio Rudiger has definitely helped. He's been texting them, so Agent Rudiger's been doing some fantastic things for the Blues, not only on the pitch as well. However, we move on from Chelsea, and finally we have to give commiserations to Nigel Pearson, who, despite having the best points per game ratio of any manager in Watford history, was given the boot with 2 games to go. Now, Watford are the first side in Premier League history to sack 3 managers, or to see 3 managers leave during a single season. It's quite mental, to be honest, but if there's one team that was going to do it, it was going to be Watford.
This week's winner comes from Leo Guidey1, and it is the Gooners. No surprise that George chose to script this section. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Football Daily, Euro Football Daily. If you're not already, turn notifications on. It's extremely important to us in this time that you guys get fed the video in your sub box. YouTube, not always the most reliable in terms of doing that, is it? And also go and subscribe to Football Daily Podcast, which has got off to a fantastic start. Only 2 weeks old, already 14,000 subs. Go and hit those boys up, because we're going to be moving all the podcasts over from this channel to the new one in the future. The not too distant future, hopefully. Anyway, let's get on with the game at hand, because Arsenal were the first side to book their place at Wembley at the start of August, weren't they? After a 2-0 victory over Manchester City, meant a 4th FA Cup final in the past 7 seasons. Bloody love this competition, don't they? And despite that monumental win against Liverpool in the midweek, they were still underdogs approaching this fixture, weren't they? That's safe to say. They'd lost their last 7 meetings to Manchester City by an aggregate scoreline of 20-2. Jesus. That is outrageous, isn't it? And the Citizens' last defeat in domestic cup competition stretched back to December of 2018. They've just been bloody imperious, haven't they? However, that record started to unravel after the 20-minute mark, when Aubameyang made up for a glaring miss, didn't he? With a fine finish at the near post, clipped. That was followed up by a fantastic team goal, which really embodied Arteta's new philosophy. It was a huge deviation from what we've seen at Arsenal in previous years. And it just shows the importance of building it, and building it adeptly from the back. I think there was 18 passes in the build-up. 9 of those were in their own box, of course, drawing Manchester City out of their shape into the Arsenal half and hitting them really well on the counter-attack. What a great pass from Pepe as well. And boss Mikel Arteta was absolutely delighted with both the performance and the commitment in what could probably be described as, somewhat of a turning point.
Really happy for what happened in the last 4 or 5 days to beat probably the best 2 teams in Europe. Is not an easy thing to do. So a lot of credit for the players for what they are doing, the performances and the level of fight and decision that they are showing in the pitch.
The captain Aubameyang became the 4th Arsenal player ever to score a competitive brace at Wembley, and as a result has now scored 66 goals in all competitions since he joined in January 2018. Only one other Premier League player has scored more in that period, and that's Mohamed Salah. And despite the stats having City ahead on XG with 1.8 to Arsenal's 0.9, and Pep City dominating with 71% possession, it was clear to everyone watching that Mikel Arteta's side deserved the win. And he can thank 2 players who have been battered by the fans too. with David Luiz and Granit Xhaka putting in commanding displays. No other Arsenal player matched the Swiss's 28 completed passes, with over half driving the ball forward to help the team progress and break on the counter. Whilst David Luiz provided the experience needed to keep City's relentless crosses and ventures forward out of their box. The Brazilian made 4 interceptions, 11 clearances and won 4 aerial duels, all match highs, and also played an inch-perfect ball for Aubameyang to miss in the first half. So Arsenal reached the FA Cup final for the 21st time, a record in the competition, and like we said earlier, it will be a third time lucky for Lampard's men.
To round off the show then, we have this week's losers. It's Leicester City that are going in the bin. They're on football's scrap heap for another week. And this suggestion comes from at AHJunior10. And their Champions League ambitions have just gone down at the Swanee, haven't they? Taken another huge hit after losing 3-0 to Tottenham Hotspur in what was a pretty drab affair in the end. Now, after Southampton's last-minute equaliser against Manchester United and that pretty commanding performance against Sheffield United at the King Power, where they won 2-0, the Foxes were actually in pole position for Champions League football, something the first half of their season definitely deserves. The latter half, not so much. They've been in free fall, haven't they, recently? And they came into this game on the back of dreadful away form, hadn't secured 3 points away from home in 7 attempts. That is their worst return in the last 3 years. So it's pretty ominous from the start. They faced an uphill task, and they just weren't up to it. After 6 minutes, they're already 1-0 down. That Son shot deflecting in off James Justin, just disastrous. And Ryan Bennett, who was hauled off at half-time next to Wes Morgan, just not enough speed or physicality to deal with Tottenham's defence. And they probed that side of the pitch, and it paid, dividends throughout the first 45. Harry Kane, absolutely excellent, back to his best, regained what felt like 2 yards of pace, running beyond the sort of forward line, although, who he was up against may have struck up that illusion in my head. And Leicester now, it looked like they're going to have to contend with Europa League football. They have thrown it away to an extent. You've got to sympathise with them because of the injuries. But Brendan Rodgers still thinks, on the balance of things over the course of a season, that 5th place is still a good achievement for the Midlands side.
For me, we achieved the goals we initially set out to achieve by having European football, and we have a game to have a shot at the Champions League, and that for us, as I said, for some that'll be a disappointment, but for others they'll be gratified by what the players have given them this season. And like I said, we've got one more game to go. We'll give it absolutely everything we can.
Now, Rodgers may consider 5th decent, but let's not forget by January 1st, Leicester City was 2nd in the Premier League, 14 points clear of Manchester United in 5th place. Now, that gap may have dropped to just 8 points by the time football returned, but a dismal return of 9 points in the last 8 games has left that buffer in tatters. Now, against Tottenham, Leicester were incredibly wasteful, particularly Jamie Vardy, who only registered a single shot on target from 6 attempts. But they did run into a Hugo Lloris in a defiant mood, I should say, with the Tottenham captain making 6 saves in total, including a quality reflex save from Ayoze Perez in what was arguably his best performance of the season. Now, he held on to his 6th clean sheet of the 2019-2020 season, despite Leicester having an XG of 1.7 in the game, showing just how well he performed. But with their backline riddled with injuries, aside from Johnny Evans, the Foxes lined up with a back 5 who had only played 1,439 minutes of football between them, with James Justin making up for just over half of that as well. So it shows you how much lack of football the defenders had played. And they proved to be no match for an in-form Harry Kane, who has now reached 16 goals in just 14 games against Leicester City, the most he's ever scored against a single club. That club must hate it when they see Kane starting against them. Now, Leicester City's Champions League dreams now hang on the results going their way, while Tottenham Hotspur close in on the Europa League spot of their own. But Hamill, being a part-time Leicester fan, how do you think their season's been so far?
Yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up. I've got to say, I'm not going to lose any sleep over Leicester not qualifying for the Champions League. You know, seeing Brendan Rodgers fall out of the competition after leaving us in such acrimonious circumstances. You know, some might say it's karma. No, but it is a shame for the fan base. It's a shame for the city. It's great to see, you know, Leicester in the Champions League, but they don't really have the squad depth at the minute to deal with losing influential players. The team is vastly inferior without Maddison. We've discussed that a lot already. Ricardo Pereira has almost become an afterthought, and he was, you know, in the top 3 creators, was at one point the top tackler in the Premier League. So they've lost a dominant force down that right-hand side, and they've had to kind of replace them with youngsters or rotation options, not people that are necessarily geared to coming in and making an impression. So I do have a certain amount of sympathy for them. But yeah, they're going to have to do some smarter recruitment in the summer if they want to compete for Champions League football yet again. I do think it will be Europa League football. What about you?
Yeah, I think they've been unfortunate, as you said. Like you can't help it with injuries, but I guess that's what makes you into a top 4 club, having that depth where players can kind of come in and out of that squad throughout the season. I think that's just been a bit unfortunate for Leicester, but I think getting into the Europa League isn't necessarily a bad thing. And after the season they've had, is probably what they deserve. So I think they've had a deserved season. But
can
guys,
you imagine it, mate?
Sorry.
Leicester, Celtic, when we crash out of the Champions League,
wow.
you know, fourth qualifying round of the playoffs or whatever it's called now, playing Leicester in the Europa League, Brendan Rodgers back at Parkhead.
That would be very good.
What a video. I might live stream it on my own. Anyway, that is the end of this week's show. Like we said, if you're not subscribed to all the Football Daily channels, then please do so now. Turn notifications on. Make sure you check out the new podcast channel. Yes. Zach, what else have we got going on?
Well, if you've not already seen the Leeds video, the everything you need to know about Marcelo Bielsa and how he got them into the Premier League, then please check that out as well. It's a fantastic video. Really enjoyed viewing it as well. And why not follow us on Snapchat, the Football Daily Snapchat story, where we give you stories every single day.
Every day, baby. Bye.